This morning, we're very honored to have Aitabé Fornés here, who's a family facilitator and the creator of Sense Thinking. She has a Bachelor of Science in Cellular and Molecular Biology from the University of Michigan and a Master's in Education from the University of Massachusetts. She taught high school science. Aitabé taught high school science in the New York City public schools for over a decade before changing careers to practice family constellations. Her vision is for the world in which all people are accessing their full potential through their whole body intelligence. She's also worked with us in Neohumanistic education through workshops and as a guest speaker at the college. So I'm going to pass it over now to Aitabé.
Thank you. Namaskar, everyone. Good morning. I prepared a slideshow, which I will share, but I want to point out, I'm curious what you notice as you just sit here together. For me, I feel this kind of excitement and joy and presence and a sense of awe, really, when I look at all of us here calling in from wherever we are in the world. And that quality of awe, of joy is an awareness that we all share, that I have, that you have, and it's real, right? It's a real part of a way of knowing, a way of perceiving. It says it thinks I'm speaking Portuguese. That's nice. No, I'm not speaking Portuguese. And so my work as an educator, and now my background is in science education. So science education, of course, is a certain way of knowing. When we teach science, when we study science, we take the world and we break it down into little parts, and we figure out how to classify it, how to put it in different places. We use our logic and our reason and our analysis. And that is a kind of my mind, or you could say it's my left brain way of knowing. But then I have other experiences. I go out for a walk on a beautiful fall day like today here where I live, and my heart feels open. I am aware of so much more, of a bigger picture, a whole picture. And that's an awareness that can be very hard to put into words. Sometimes, in fact, we might even say, you just have to experience it, because whatever word you use, you can't fully describe what you are feeling and sensing and knowing in your body and in your heart. That phrase, you just have to experience it, is a kind of clue that you are tapping into this other way of knowing, which you could call your heart. You could also call your right brain, but it's another way of knowing. And what I do is I teach people how to include this other way of knowing in education. Okay, I think I'm going to start my slideshow. If you have questions as I talk, you're welcome to raise your hand or put something in the chat. We'll see how it goes. I'm not very good with using PowerPoint. You can tell because I didn't even start it yet. I'm not very good at using slideshows because it actually took my left brain. My left brain was required to make the slideshow, and I spent a lot of time more in my bigger awareness and going back and forth. So making a slideshow was a bit of a work for me. Okay, here we go. So welcome everyone. I'm Aitabé, and the name of my talk is Reading Comprehension in the Inner Image. And I'll explain to you why we call it that in a moment. But one thing that will be useful is for you to have a piece of paper and something to write with, so we can use that later. I am going to, the way I've structured this talk is to read something to you. I'm going to read you a passage from a book that a friend of mine who's on the call, a friend of mine gave me this book called Come On Rain. So I'm going to read something to you first, and then I will give my talk about sense thinking, and then we'll go back to that reading, and I'll teach you how to use that reading to have a different experience of the words, a sense thinking experience, or you could say even a sense reading experience of the words. I'm going to skip this. Okay. Here's the book. I'm reading just one page from this book. Okay, so you can make yourself comfortable, and hopefully I will, the translators, maybe you can even just translate the text. But here we go. This is an excerpt from the book Come On Rain by Karen Hess. Jackie Joyce, in her bathing suit, knocks at the door, and I let her in. Jackie Joyce has her suit on, Mama, I say. May I wear mine too? I hold my breath, waiting. A breeze blows the thin curtains into the kitchen, then sucks them back against the screen again. Is there thunder? Mama asks. No thunder, I say. Is there lightning? Mama asks. No lightning, I say. You stay where I can find you, Mama says. We will, I say. Go on then, Mama says, lifting the glass to her lips to take a sip. Come on, rain, I cheer, peeling out of my clothes and into my suit, while Jackie Joyce runs to get Liz and Rosemary. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story about myself now. We'll come back to that reading in a little bit, but when I was a little girl, I started to notice when I went to school, right about the time when I was maybe in second or third grade, I noticed that sometimes I would be standing next to an adult, like at the teacher, and the teacher would be smiling or maybe have a kind of neutral face, but I could tell that they were actually angry or sad. And then I noticed later at home, oh, I was doing the same thing, that sometimes my mom would be, she would seem to be happy or busy, but I could tell she was actually sad or mad or frustrated, right? And so it was like I could perceive that even though they had one face, on the inside, they had other feelings. And I became very curious about what that is. Now, of course, as a child, I don't know why I'm feeling those, why I can notice that. But as an adult, I came to learn that we have these different ways of perceiving information, which I spoke about at the beginning. We can think of these two ways of perceiving information as the mind and the heart, or we can think of them as the left brain and the right brain. It means the same thing, at least when I'm talking about it. So basically, what it means is that my left brain is able to break things down and sort of take reality and start to make sense of it. And when I say reality, I mean like the things I can see and taste and touch and smell, the things I can use my five senses, my outer senses. But then we also have this other way of knowing, which we can think of as being our heart or as our right brain. And that I think of as our inner senses. So our inner senses are things like empathy and emotions. Empathy, emotions, the felt sense, meaning how I feel inside of my body energetically. I might notice, for example, sometimes I feel relaxed and open, and sometimes I feel tight. I might notice that sometimes I want to be very close to something or very far away. So all of this information, my left brain doesn't necessarily understand it, but my right brain or my heart, it receives that information and it can start to interpret it and make sense of the world. In fact, it's doing it all the time. Your heart and mind are always working together. And you can see in my picture here, the heart and mind are like this infinity symbol. They go back and forth. So when I discovered as an adult that this is what's happening, I'm going to skip a bunch of slides here. So I'm going to skip these slides. This family constellation work, was one of the reasons how I learned what I teach now. So this is some pictures from that, but I'm not going to talk about it too much. except to say that I wanted to learn how to take the experience I was having into education. And that's what I do now. What I'm teaching you today is about how we take the feeling, sensing, intuition part of us and put it together with the analytical, logical, rational part of us, and how we can apply it to everything, including something like reading. Now, let's see what I have on the next slide. Okay, I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna just take a little pause and just kind of give me, I don't know, what can I say? If what I have said so far makes sense and you can type in the chat, you can put a number one in the chat, just so I know that you're getting it. And if it doesn't make sense yet, or you just want to, you're confused about anything, put a number 2. I might not be able to do anything, but at least I can get some feedback. All right, here's a number 1. Good. All right, great. Thank you so much. That's helpful. All right, so we're going to do an exercise. I'm going to go back to the reading. Hold on a second. There we go. We're gonna, yeah. Oh, look, I have a quote. So we're going to talk about reading now. So this might be an obvious statement, or it might be something we overlook or forget sometimes. The reason we read is not to understand the words, but to understand the experience they are pointing to. And you can see I have a picture of the finger pointing at the moon. And maybe you've heard this metaphor before, that the fingers are only there to direct you to an experience. And that's the same thing with the words. Words are symbols. They are, the function of a word is entirely about activating inside of you an experience. The thing about words is that, just like the finger pointing at the moon, sometimes we get so focused on the words that we don't know how to drop into the deeper experience that they represent. And that's what sense thinking is going to teach you how to do. So now is the time to take out your piece of paper if you have one, and I'm going to guide you through a very simple process. So you're going to take out your paper, and then I'm going to read you that little piece of the story again. And one of the things we're going to do after I read is I'm going to show you how to create a diagram of the story. And then once you have that diagram, it's going to be like a little map of the story. And then we will be able to actually imagine ourselves inside the map of the story, inside the map of the story. And then we'll start to have an experience. So that's the description of what's happening. So get your paper. You don't need to use it just now. For now, just listen to the story, but I'll show you what to do with your paper in a moment. Okay. So when you listen this time, I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. One is how many people are in the story. How many characters are in this scene? And who feels like the important character? That's number 1. And number 2, are there any other elements in the story that seem important to you? Okay, so here we go. Jackie Joyce, in her bathing suit, knocks at the door, and I let her in. Jackie Joyce has her suit on, Mama, I say. May I wear mine too? I hold my breath, waiting. A breeze blows the thin curtains into the kitchen, then sucks them back against the screen again. Is there thunder? Mama asks. No thunder, I say. Is there lightning? Mama asks. No lightning, I say. You stay where I can find you, Mama says. We will, I say. Go on then, Mama says, lifting the glass to her lips to take a sip. Come on, rain, I cheer, peeling out of my clothes and into my suit, while Jackie Joyce runs to get Liz and Rosemary. Okay. So I'm gonna see if the tech holds up here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna do something. I think I'm gonna try to do something. There we go. Okay. Hopefully some of you at least can see a little, you can see my paper here. So the first thing I want you to do is think about who was in the story. And I remember that first there's somebody who is the main character of the story. We only know her as I. She says, I open the door, right? So she's the main character. And then she has a friend at the door. Let's go back and look at her name again. Jackie, here we go. What's her name? Whoops, go back. Jackie Joyce. So I'm going to put a J for Jackie Joyce. And then there's Mama. Okay, so we have three characters. I, the main character, J and M. So what I want you to do is think of this scene again. You have the writing here. And I'm going to do this too. You do your own version, so don't copy me. But I want you to imagine these three characters, the main character, Jackie Joyce, and Mama, and draw a little picture of where you think they are in your inner image, in your inner picture of this scene. So for me, I am going to have, this is the character I'm calling I. I'm going to have a character called I next to J for Jackie Joyce. And then I'm going to have Mama. Maybe she's over here. She feels kind of big to me, so I'm going to put her like this. Now, this drawing is a very simple thing, right? It's very easy to make a drawing. You can ask anyone, you can ask your students or children to make drawings like this. And one of the things I'm going to invite you to do for yourself and for anybody, if you're working with children on this, is to think about anything they feel or notice when they start to draw these pictures. And so for me, I just keep noticing that Mama has a really big heart. So I'm going to put a heart next to her. And I also noticed that these two feel like they're really good friends. Okay, so that's the first thing. Oh, and then I want you to do another thing. We want to add anything that stood out for you as important in this scene. Anything that stood out as important. And so I know for me, you might have something different, but for me, one of the things that seemed really important is rain. Like rain seems like really an important part of this picture. So this is my version of rain. You can have your own version. Maybe something else is important to you. Oh, I know what else. The bathing suit. That also seems important. So maybe, please show us the paper bigger so we can see. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Okay. I will share, I will figure out how to do that. I'm going to draw the bathing suit because that to me also seems important. Okay, here's a bathing suit. That's not a very good bathing suit. Let me see. Stop my share. All right, can you see it bigger? Yeah, okay. So here it is. This is my picture. You might have a different picture. Having a different picture is a good thing because part of what we're doing here is we're wanting to discover how are your readers, what kind of images do they make from the same words? Because each of us will interact with the words differently. This is important because sometimes when we're teachers, we think that we want our students everyone to have the same idea, but it's much richer, much more interesting to start to discover what different ideas people have about the same words. And one reason is because the things I pay attention to will open up a different line of questions, different curiosities than the things that my friend pays attention to. Okay, I'm going to go back to the share because I want you to see the next slide and then we'll switch back and forth. Okay, so we created a picture. We put in the elements that are important. And now I'm going to do step number 2. And this one is kind of a magical step. This is the step where we actually use our imagination and enter the picture we just made. And so you don't have to know how to do this. You already know how to do this, but it's a game. Think of it as a game or as a way of playing. And so I'm going to stop my share in just a minute, but some things I might think about when I do this is, what are the emotions that I feel if I imagine myself as one of these characters, or even as one of the elements like the rain or the bathing suit? How would I feel? I might notice what I call what other people call the felt sense. Um, how do I feel physically or energetically? Like, do I feel relaxed, or do I feel open, or do I feel sensations in different parts of my body? I might also notice when I imagine myself inside the picture that some of the characters want to move around. Maybe they want to be farther away or closer to something. Okay. So I'm going to stop my share and go back to my drawing. So I'm going to start with this main character. And I'm just going to close my eyes and imagine that I'm in this picture. And I will tell you what I notice. And you take a moment to see what you notice. If you can put things in the chat, you're welcome to write what you notice. For me, when I go imagine myself as the main character, I feel a lot of excitement. I feel almost giddy and playful with excitement. Now I'm going to shift my imagination to this character over here. And I'm going to pretend I'm here. Oh, feeling anticipation. Yes, yes, thank you. Let's go to J. I'm going to go to J and let's see when I feel here. Okay. So interestingly, it's almost like in my picture, the first thing I notice is I feel my friend on my right side. And I feel like her partner. I feel like we're collaborating.
Are we supposed to be picking our own room?
Yes.
Oh, and I guess I'm not getting a choice for that.
I'll give it to you right now.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't speak English.
Can you put let's see. Okay, can you put Shamita in the Portuguese room, Krishna Prema?
Mhm. Who did you ask me to put in? Shamita, right?
Shamita.
Okay.
And is there somebody else we have? Okay. Well, for those who are here, my connection, it says my internet is unstable, but hopefully you can hear me. Oh, also, let's see. Juliana, can you put Juliana, is she, okay, can you put Juliana in the Portuguese room as well?
Yep.
Okay, good. And Rada, is Rada in the Spanish room? I think so.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, if you're still here and if you would like, I would love to see your pictures if you have pictures. Hi, Erika. Can we see yours? Or let's see. I'm gonna oops. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to use my very bad. Here we go. That's our ooh, rain and what else do I see? The bathing, yes. And did you Erica, do you want to unmute? Tell me, can you talk about what you noticed when you entered your picture or imagined yourself inside of it? Yeah, so for different characters, for the mom, I felt control. I felt
Mhm.
a little bit of sadness. I felt love and an overprotection. And for Joyce, I felt nervous. And for the girl, I felt very excited. And I noticed that the bathing suit wanted to be very big, and wanted to feel connected to each
Oh.
character.
Mm.
So what you said about the cape really resonated.
Beautiful. Mhm. Fascinating. Thank you so much. Anyone else have a picture? Ari, do you have a picture? Did I see you hold one?
Yep, it's a very simple one. So for some reason, I imagine a door and outer and inner spaces, no? So somehow the mama
Yeah.
and the friend is coming from outside. And also that the image of a cup of tea and the breeze come through the door, no?
Yes. Wonderful. I have a question for you. Well, a
Yeah.
couple questions. A new question maybe. When you, based on what you drew and maybe what you felt when you walked in, when you imagined yourself in the picture, do you have any questions about the story? Like what, maybe there's a wondering about, oh, what other information is in the story? This is something I think about when I do this work. I think, well, where can we go? Like what might we ask about the rest of the story based on what we just experienced?
Yes, for some reason I start to imagine the house, kind of old house in the countryside, and nice garden, and far from the city. I don't know why, but it just came to my mind. And
That's great.
I
So yeah, so one question might be, what is the setting like? What is where does this story take place?
yes,
Yeah, yeah. And something else you're going to say.
no, for some reason this this idea of being in the countryside and having an ideal life or some kind of happy and peaceful way of living.
Wonderful. Is everyone back, Krishna Prema? Is that
Yes.
okay? So we were just talking about so what to do next. One of the things I do, and Ari and I were just doing this together just now, one of the things we can do with this information, there's many things we could do, but one thing we can do is we can then start to ask questions or be curious about what the rest of the story tells us. So for example, Ari mentioned, really noticing a sense of the house, and that maybe it's in the countryside, that there's a quality of the ideal life of happiness and peace.
when I was talking to Erika in our group, Erika mentioned, oh, the mother feels maybe she's a little bit controlling or overprotective, even though, and she's also loving. So that might be a question, or do we notice, is the mother being overprotective? In Artie's picture, Artie drew a picture of the door. He really noticed the door and the people, maybe the main character on one side of the door and the other character on the other side of the door. So these are questions we could read. So it would be very curious. Now, all of a sudden, you know, you become very curious to open up this book and discover, well, what else is in this book? Do any of the ideas that I had about that came in my picture, do they show up in the rest of the book? The feeling of joy. Yes, the feeling of joy and accessibility. So the other thing that can happen is we can talk about our own experiences. When do we feel this way? When do we feel, for example, as Reka mentioned in her chat here, my friend feels close, free to come to the door and close by. Do we have those feelings with our friends? Do we want to have that more, perhaps? So it can stimulate a lot for us about how we personally feel connected to the things in the story, or want more things, or, you know, imagine things. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now because I want to open this up to if there are comments or questions. If you want to put something in the chat, you're welcome to do that. And to thank you for going on this little journey. Maybe the first question is just, was it interesting for you? Was it useful? Did you discover something new? If you did, you can tell me that. Put it in the chat if you like. I love the memories. Yes, the memories of the experience of rain. Yes. And I think there's something about, so, you know, if you read the word rain in a book, we all know what rain is. We don't have to look it up in the dictionary, right? Rain, I know that. But in this moment, when we drew the picture of the rain on our drawing, and then when we allowed ourselves to experience rain, it opens something else up for us. It's much richer, right, than just the surface definition of what rain is. It's the whole richness of our own personal experience. Yes, the multisensory approach to the emphasis on individual responses instead of everyone having to have the same one response, but instead getting to have many, many versions of the story, and how much richer the classroom becomes, this learning environment becomes, because now we all have different things that we're contributing to a big, big picture. Oh, it's raining daffodils. A reminder to enjoy the rain more. Yes, yes. Wonderful. You're having, yeah, the audio. Sorry, I don't know if my internet is unstable. I hope you can get enough. I hope you can get enough. Even if you can't hear me every word, I hope you can get enough of what's being communicated. Okay. Yes, I'm speaking too fast. So one person wrote, I've learned that people can sense differently from the same text. And that's really valuable. I want you to imagine that, say you're working with fourth graders, and you do something like this. And you you include everybody's different ideas about the text. You don't try to make everyone have the same idea. Everyone has a different idea. And let's say that happens every year, every time we're reading, they always learn we can all have different ideas. And we can then look at the ways in which your idea stimulates something in me. And then later on, let's say we have a big problem we need to solve. It will be really useful for everyone to have lots of different ideas. For people to be stimulated in something completely new and fresh. And to learn from each other. Because that's how we create the change, right? So we create the beautiful new things in the world. Okay, I think we're at the end of our time, or the top of the near the end of the time. I'd like to turn it over, Vishala, or
Yes,
anyone else who.
Emma is going to put in the chat some links. One is to sign up for the college to get notices of these meetups. And also MJ, one of our presenters in the past, is starting a new course on teaching yoga with kids. So you can get that on the college website. The other thing that's going to be in there is about the Gane website, which is the organization for Neohumanistic educators. And there's a whole new resource. I can't go into it now. We'll do it another time. Whole new resource page. If you go in there, there's a link for that where you can access resources for free. And join Gane, you even get like more resources. And also Kathleen Kelson, one of our instructors, just put out an amazing book, and there's a link to an explanation of her book. We're going to send out the recording to everybody, and those links will attach it, so you can also get it that way. Next month, Lolita, our translator, is going to be doing a meetup about first steps in bringing new humans into your school with, I believe, an emphasis on the arts. So we're very excited. She's a graduate of our teacher preparation program. And I'm going to just give you the date right now. It's going to be Saturday, November 16th. So thanks to Aitabé. It was a lot of fun and really insightful. And all of you will figure out how to take this and use it in whatever work that you do. And I think also Aitabé to me.
There was a question about how to.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Aitabé.
Well, there's a question about finding me. You can find my work at sensethinking.com, and on that page there's an ebook, and you'll put in your email, and I can send you emails. I teach teachers sense thinking. A couple of my students from my recent training are on the call. And we get to explore, and you get to, the students in this who I work with, they are the ones who teach me how to do this work. So we kind of learn the basic principles, and then they experiment how to do it in different ways with the students they work with.
So if you said,
but I will also be, in Vishala's course, it's visiting that course as well.
And Aitabé, if you send me that info, if you just text it to me, I'll add it to the group that we're going to send out to, so people can have that. Okay? Great.
Yeah.
We have a hand
There's a
raised.
question. Niranjan? Yeah. Do you want to ask your question? Niranjan, do you raise your hand on time? You're on for a question? Mhm.
I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. If you have a
Renata has
question,
a question.
yeah. If you have questions, you can stay afterwards, but I'd like to also thank our translators. Let's give them all a round of applause.
Yeah.
They are amazing. And if you want to stay after and have a question, Aitabé will be here for a few minutes for questions. And you can stay and hear the answers and questions too.
Aitabé.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone.
Gratidão.
You're being, thank you for all the knowledge
You're
shared.
welcome.
Thank you, Aitabé. It was great.
Good, good.